got Birmingham City coming to town. Birmingham City and Brentford have a little bit of history going back probably 20, 25 years, and a lot of Brentford fans haven't forgotten that. And we thought we need to know what's going on in Birmingham, because there's been a lot of rumours flying around, but we don't really know, we're just making it up ourselves. So we thought we were going to invite Davo on to our podcast. Davo, who does Davo's Diaries. Davo, how you doing?
How you doing, mate? You all right?
I'm not bad. How are you?
Well, I've been better, to be honest. Coming off two absolutely woeful performances. We were just saying we thought we'd kind of turned the corner, and now we're back to square one, it looks like.
Right, okay, it's back to square one. And also I've got the Laney man who was with me on the train back from Sunderland on Saturday, where we weren't allowed to sing, were we, Laney?
No, it's been a big clamp down on fun in the last week or so. The singing, the conductor wasn't happy at all, was he?
No, obviously
wasn't doing any conducting.
It was written in the Virgin Trains manifesto. There's no fun and no singing after a away victory so far away. But it doesn't matter.
Behave yourselves.
Yeah. We behaved ourselves very well. But listen, we don't matter about that, because we're going to have fun, hopefully, tomorrow night. So listen, Davo, just tell us a little bit, because obviously the last time we chatted was a few months ago, and you had pretty much high hopes, even though your season had gone according to plan. But it seems to have taken a bit of a dip for the worse.
It's not good at all. We have to start with the manager. We've had a few decent games to start the calendar year, and we really thought things were looking up. And to go into Villa, a big derby, and to play just a lifeless performance, and then to follow that against Millwall, barely have a shot on goal. The ground felt like a morgue, and it really is just depressing times again to be a Birmingham fan.
At the beginning of the season, you talk about Cotterill, but yeah. I mean, from what I remember rightly, your fans actually, and even yourself, you all wanted Cotterill, didn't you?
It was mixed. Personally, I thought it was the best possible appointment, just simply because the options weren't great, and he'd kept us up the season before, and he seemed like the kind of guy that we needed. A traditional manager who can just come in, maybe motivate the players, give them a simple style of play, and get the basics right. And unfortunately, he's failed in a lot of ways. He still doesn't get the basics right. I mean, we've got a player called Michael Kieftenbeld, a very defensive central midfielder who has never ever made a pass to unlock a defence in his life. That's not what he does. And he's played him in the number 10 role. And we're just looking at ourselves as fans thinking, what hope have we got? And I'm really hoping that tomorrow he puts a bit of a different team out there.
Again, I mean, Laney, bringing you in here as well. I mean, we've been discussing from the very beginning, we were discussing the Redknapp factor, weren't we? And what's your thoughts, Laney? I mean, he's obviously given us £12 million, and we're sort of quite grateful for that. But there was a little bit of niggling going on at the time as well, because I mean, to be fair, there were 3 first-team players who were quite instrumental to our team and everything like that. Jota was an absolute god on the Brentford terraces. He probably brought in an extra 1,500, 2,000 fans at Brentford easily each week. Harlee Dean was a staple diet, as they call it. He's been there for years. He probably got to the stage where people didn't know whether or not he was positive or negative effect to the team, because he'd been there so long. And Maxime Colin was just a really, really, really nice bloke. And, we used to talk to him in the pub, and we actually walked past his house all the time, didn't we? His flat. Yeah, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. I mean, if I'm being brutally honest, and some of this is going to sound like I'm trying to wind Birmingham up, but I don't intend to do that, honestly. But, I think the only player that we miss really or the only one we really have back is, I would say, is Colin. I don't think we've missed Harlee Dean at all. I think in fact it's helped us find a better defensive partnership. Jota, it was a shame to see such an iconic player go, and we've said it, quite a few times on the pod, Bill. You're right. He had a bit of a wow factor about him, and he was something special, and he put a smile on a lot of fans' faces. But really, we've not really missed him. And again, if I'm honest with you, I think part of the reason he's not really succeeding at Birmingham, Jota, is I don't think he wants to be there. I think his agent promised him a Premiership deal or a Premiership move, and it was all like last knock-ins, and there was like Fulham coming in for him, and somewhere that was local, and he could have stayed in West London, and he was probably up for a bit of that. He wanted a bit more money and not probably move very far, but in the end he's got a lot more money and he's had to move to Birmingham. He didn't know anything about Birmingham, so I just think it's a sort of a move that's sort of doomed to failure, if I'm honest. I hope he plays well again, because he is a quality player, and I still think he's he's good enough for the top flight at some stage. But you know, I think that if he doesn't pull it out the fire or pull it out the bag at St Andrews, then no one in the top flight is going to take a punt on him. He's kind of clipped his wings at Championship level. So it's a shame, but you know, careful what you wish for.
Let's say we said to you, you can have Jota back for 4 million. What would you say?
Well, I can guarantee you that we haven't paid 4 million for anybody ever.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Seriously, we haven't. You know, the players that we've got now who are doing it for us at the moment now, Ollie Watkins costs $1.5 million, Maupay, who's just starting to warm up, he's $1.5 million, VB cost us about 800,000, I think it was. Like, you know, we don't kind of really go into those. That is upper echelon type vibe anyway. But just coming back to what I was saying, even though, like I said to you, it's really weird because you've got mates who are Birmingham fans. However, we really do want to beat you, and the reason why is from historic reasons as well. There's that rivalry thing. It's almost like when you've got you might have Fulham or QPR. I know people have got QPR friends who desperately want to beat them, even though their wife or their family might be QPR and they're Brentford. So you've got that kind of scenario. And for us, forget it. You will see. I mean, you're coming down and we're meeting up with you tomorrow, Davo. The atmosphere, we've been moaning about the atmosphere at Griffin Park recently because it's been average. It's been a little bit tepid. We've got a few more fans come in. And as a few more fans come in, it basically means that the atmosphere gets a little bit watered down. But I don't think tomorrow, I know tomorrow ain't going to be watered down. As long as you don't get a goal in the first minute, you know what I'm saying? That atmosphere in Griffin Park is going to be quite ferocious because everybody, there's a bit of a vibe about Birmingham City where there is a bit of an anti-Birmingham City team thing going on, as that we really want to beat you. And I'm just...
Well, hang on, let's talk about that. Like, let's say Jota starts tomorrow, which I don't think he will. But if he does, what reception would he get?
Laney, what do you think?
I think Harlee Dean and Jota are going to get stinky at receptions tomorrow. I think Dean's going to get dog's abuse. Jota will, if at best, he'll get ignored. And Colin, I don't think anyone will say anything about him, to be honest with you. I think he's probably the only one that I don't think many people have got beef about. But Jota, he might get a pleasant round of applause if he doesn't start. Dean will be wearing a tin hat.
Yeah, I mean, again, we were coming back from Sunderland. You said, how was the train quiet? It was relatively quiet, but all the way in to the station on the tram from Sunderland up to Newcastle, everyone was singing the Harlee Dean song. Like, you know what I'm saying? The whole carriage was singing it. So we're thinking, this is Saturday. You know, we're not even on Tuesday. Yeah. Everyone's singing this one already. So we've got that scenario. It's a situation which is a bit of a strange one as well, because we'll have to say, and Laney would say, is that he kind of left Brentford on quite a good footing. People kind of sort of tipped their hat. I mean, people were disappointed that he left, but people sort of said to him, fair play to him. He's been there for 6 years. You know, we hope he gets a good move. You know, he wanted to get a move, and he's got more money, so just let him go. I think, unfortunately, the comments that he said, whether or not they're ill-advised, you know, he sometimes does. He's done that a few times, you know, even at Brentford. One time he went on to Talk Sport, and I think that he was quite angry, and then he basically just sort of slagged the manager. Or I can't remember exactly who it was, but he went on Talk Sport, and the transcript's there where he really quite laid into, you know, quite a few people in the club, and everyone's like going, "Oh, that was it's a bit strong," you know, Harlee. Not be funny. They've been, you know, paying your wages for you, and you might be angry about certain things, but going on to national radio because you know, when you're looking for a new deal, that's probably not the best way. So sometimes he does get himself in a little bit of a pickle like that, and that was definitely a pickle which he probably thought would never get picked up. But the radars are always out there, mate. The Brentford radars, mate. We just get stuff sent through to us all the time by people, and somebody just picked up on that, and that was it. It was end of story, wasn't it, Laney?
Yeah, you didn't have to say it. That was the thing. That was the upshot. It really did upset people. You know, saying that, you know, the Birmingham City team that he joined is better than the promotion team.
10 times better.
10 times better than the team that got us to the playoff semi-finals. Don't get me wrong. You know, we're not stupid either. You know, we know that he's trying to say the right things to get a new fan base to like him and to establish himself there. And we get all that. But sometimes it's just like, if you're talking a load of tosh, you know, it's gonna come back and bite you. It's a shame, and you know, I think as a fanzine and as fans as well, we were happy to, you know, but it was probably his move was a little bit overdue. But you know, I think we wish him well. He was a good servant. He was part of a great team that got up, and you know, we always thank him for his part in that. But you know, just manners, just go and you know, say what you've got to say with grace, but don't talk twaddle, you know.
Dave,
I think he wears his heart on his sleeve, doesn't he? And I think sometimes that's what gets him in trouble. What's interesting is what we would never have expected of the three players that we brought in. It's Harlee Dean who has really become the popular one at the club. You know, he's our captain now, and he really strikes us as a leader. He's kind of shown himself to be the one guy who's up for the fight, and he'll make the occasional mistake, but he's at least the kind of player that we can all get behind.
No, in which case, fair enough. He's, you know, it didn't start well for him. He did get dropped. He did make mistakes.
Yeah.
If he's come back from that, then good on him, you know. But you know, I think you're right. He has got a leadership quality. He certainly does graft and he does battle. And you know, he in the past he's made mistakes and come back stronger and learned from them. We had a really good year out of him last year. You know, he's a quality player at this level. So you know, we don't overall wish him any ill, but I think his comments will come back and bite him in the arse again tomorrow.
And Dave, I would say as well, I mean, we were talking early in the season, and at the time when everything was going wrong for you and he was having some terrible games, and I actually did say to you, I said, I bet you'll be Birmingham captain, didn't I?
You actually did, yeah. Spot on.
So that was when you dropped him, you thought I was joking, but we know the type of player that he is. So even though he was going through a bad time, we said that, you know, he'll be in there, he'll become Birmingham player, because you could see that he was kind of making the moves. He was like, I remember at the time he was actually telling the Birmingham players what they were doing wrong, which is like, you know, the dressing room weren't light, there's infighting in the dressing room, and I said to him, he's making moves to be the captain, and about a month later he was, wasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. Michael Morrison was the captain. He's been captain for a few seasons for us, and he's lost it. So I don't know how he must feel towards him, but no, fair play to Harlee. He's done all right for us.
Yeah. So, and it's interesting as well, mate, because like I said to you, we've, you talked about Harlee, you know, Jota as well. You said that he might not start because he hasn't done the business, and we're just interesting as Brentford fans. What you see in these players, because we've seen it on social media. Jota gets quite a lot of abuse from the Birmingham fans, from what we can see. Maxime Colin, you know, we don't see too much about him. People seem to sort of kind of just he's almost like a little bit invisible. You know, I think he scored a goal and set up a goal sort of, you know, in a couple of games, and people have seen that he's half decent, but still not sure. And obviously we've seen the Harlee Dean has gone up in people's estimations, and you've got the song about him. Who is it again? The song?
Harlee Dean, he is a great defender. Harlee Dean, he's better than Chris Samba.
That's
Harlee
it, Chris Samba.
He never gives the ball away.
Yeah, Chris Samba, and I think a lot of Birmingham fans going, oh no, if the barometer is Chris Samba, oh no.
Yeah, it does make you think, but...
Is it too late for revision entries?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know there's a few fans who aren't too fond of that song, but it has caught on.
Yeah.
You mentioned Colin. He strikes me as very professional, very tidy player. I'd like to see him and Jota both get a chance to play together, because one thing I did notice is when they were in the side together, it looked like they've got a bit of an understanding, and that's the one time where I looked at Jota and I said, okay, he looks comfortable today. Unfortunately, since then, Cotterill has messed around again. He's moved Colin to left back the last couple of games, and again, he does a job, but I think you've got to keep him at right back where he's played well. We've brought in Jenkinson on loan from Arsenal, and we've played him at right back, and to be honest, I don't know what he's done to get in the side. He's never achieved anything in his career. He's not even young anymore, so you can't say he's got potential. He made mistakes at Villa. We've got to get him out of the side, I think, get Colin back at right back. As fans, we don't have any problems with Colin. Jota, yes, he's got a bit of stick. I think that's to be expected when it's your record signing and he's not really done much. The only thing I think is we don't make his life easy. I mean, I spoke to you before. He's a player that has to feel comfortable. Like Laney said, he's maybe not feeling at home in Birmingham, and that's fair enough. But
loved is the word. He needs to feel loved.
He's got to feel loved. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he is one of those that seems to, you know, he needs a lot of he needs a cushion around him. He needs a lot of things to be right in his life, and it must be found out without going into it in too much detail again. But when he went back to Spain for for that period of time, because he couldn't, he needed to get his personal situation sorted. He wasn't able to sort of play on and have that in his life as well. So I think he needs everything to be aligned. All his stars need to be aligned to get the best out of Jota. So if he's not happy where he is, or he's just not feeling the vibe, then maybe that's it's, as I said, he might be just doomed.
I mean, he looked good a couple of weeks ago at Sheffield Wednesday, where we won 3-1. He scored. When he scores, the players just mob him. Everyone looks so over the moon for him. It seems that people like him. He's a likeable character. But he goes from that to being back on the bench and not really getting a look in.
Maybe he fancies a move to Sheffield.
There's also one other thing with him as well, is that because you have to remember, and again, a lot of the Birmingham fans who may be listening here, you don't know the history of Jota. We plucked him from obscurity, Eibar. He's actually playing on loan for a club called Eibar. We use, as you probably know, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, where we use our whole statistical modelling thing to find players that no one's ever heard of, pull them in. So in that promotion season, we found him. One of our scouts that does the European side, and he's a bit of a stats guy. He discovered him. He thought he's perfect for what we want. We pulled him in. I'm pretty sure he cost less than $1 million. He might have cost $1 million at the most. We pulled him in, and there was the love for him because of the way that he played his football. We played him, even though he's left-footed on the right, on the wing. He took people on, but also it was the way that we played our football, because we were passing the ball around, a lot of moving, it was perfect for him. So it was absolutely fantastic, and Jota was. He was the business, but
Jota as well, and especially in that first season, he did take a little while to get sort of up to speed, which you accept. We get that same situation with a lot of foreign players that we get in. Sometimes they hit the ground running, sometimes it takes them a while. But you think about that midfield that we had, or that attacking midfield. We had Stuart Dallas, we had Alex Pritchard, we had Alan Judge, we had Jota. We were spoiled. We were spoiled. So we were able to ping balls from corner to corner, which we still do. But he was just on his A game, and he always he cut in, and he was kind of a bit of a wild card. People really didn't know a lot about him at the time, so he had that sort of surprise factor.
But Laney, anyway, I mean, there's other bits and pieces that we want to talk about on the Birmingham front. I mean, it's interesting. There was a conversation or an article today, I think it was, Steve Cotterill. He said that, he looked at Brentford, he says Brentford sign numbers, not players. They sign a number 6, they sign a number 9, they sign a number 10. This is the way that they do their business, and it's very good. It's really good. It means that they don't replicate players that they don't need, and they play a style of football which actually suits them, and they've got this system which they've had for years, and it really works. And he said their DNA has been clear for years now, which is good. And Steve Cotterill says, we want to do that. Davo, you found that interesting, didn't you?
I found it to be a bit of a joke, to be honest. I agree with the premise. I mean, I think we can all in the Championship look at Brentford as a shining example. Like you said, you pluck players out of nowhere, you don't spend much money, you make a lot of money back on them. Just look at Jota. You've got a great way of playing, you use the pitch, and yes, you do put players in roles and they do seem to succeed, but the fact that Steve Cotterill is saying this is alarming to me, because I don't think any of us at Birmingham envision him being here long enough to see that plan come to fruition. No. And he's talking about, like you said, a number 6, a number 7. We've got a number 6 and he plays him in the number 10 role, and now he wants to be like Brentford. We're so far away from being like Brentford, it's unreal. We're the least Brentford side in the Championship at the minute, because not only have we blown money that we suddenly got on players that barely even play, we're paying big wages to players who aren't achieving things. But we've got a very negative style where I think we've got the 3rd lowest goal scoring record in all of English football. And that's having played less games, obviously, than the sides in the Premier League. We're just not an attractive team to watch. Whereas you're the opposite. So I don't know. It would take so long to implement something like that at our club. I don't think any of us want to think about giving Steve Cotterill the time to do it.
It's going to take, as you said, it's going to take years, and he's also joining a very long queue of other managers that want to replicate it. Is there really another club in this division that doesn't want what we've done, playing pretty good football. Having the scouting model and the business model, and you're buying players for cheap, relatively cheap, and you're selling them on, but you've still got, replacements that can come in, and you've almost got a seamless transition every time. I'm not saying that happens, it isn't always seamless, and we do replicate sometimes, and I wouldn't say we always buy a number. I think we do buy players sometimes that we store a couple up for the future that we don't really need. So, but it's just words, Has he got a clue about how you would do it? It's certainly not a manager's job. But the manager, we just got a head coach.
There you go. That's a big difference, isn't it? I mean, it comes from the top.
Yeah, it's not to sort of demean or dilute anything that Dean Smith does. He's a thoroughly decent guy, but he's inswappable. That's the whole point of having the system. If we get another head coach in, the style of football will play the same way. Is for him to go out there and obviously pick the team, but to motivate and then get the best out of them on the training pitch. So
that's a good way of putting it. What you're saying is basically Steve Cotterill is talking about implementing a system where he himself would be interchangeable.
Yeah,
and that's the irony of it.
Yeah, the irony of it. You're absolutely right. As I said, they're just words. I would like to win the lottery. I know it's not going to happen. Like it's as easy as that. You need a lot of variables in there, and you've got to be. What we've achieved at Brentford is down to some borderline genius going on behind the scenes. Is people that are really on the cutting edge of doing what they do in terms of scouting and analytics and betting and all that kind of stuff, and someone who's not afraid to take a calculated risk.
How do you feel when you see a guy like Steve Cotterill say that he wants to copy what you've done? Do you take that as a sign of respect, or do you feel that it's a bit of a cheat for him to say it, that he's suddenly going to achieve what you've done?
I think you hit that nail on the head. You said it's kind of a bit funny, really. It's just kind of like, of course, anyone that tips our hat to us, but I read that sometimes as, God, if they can do it, anyone can do it, and I just think no, it's not that. We are. This is why the whole teams like Brentford, the little tin pot Brentford thing, is something that we just adore. We love it because it's a lot of people just look at the name and look at our history, our kind of last 30 years of history, and just kind of scoff. It's there. We're not going anywhere. So I think over the next 5 or 6 years, we'll emerge as someone that we're taking far more seriously.
And I'm slightly different in that thoughts as well, because I actually take that as a bit of an honour, because the fact is that we got absolutely torn to pieces. When we first came in this league, and first of all they used the old excuses. Oh, they haven't got an experienced manager, so they're gonna flunk because we had Mark Warburton as manager. Then they start to say they haven't got any experienced players in this division, so they're going to flunk it. Because we had Andre Gray as a striker and Scott Hogan as a striker, and Harlee Dean intervention. And they just basically laughed at us, And then when we did what we did, it's like we were breaking all the rules. And then afterwards, after that, when the whole Mark Warburton thing that came about, which came about basically for the reasons that you just talked about, it's like what Steve Cotterill said. But on the flip side, the owner, halfway through the season, decided that you need to put in a system which actually made the head coach interchangeable, so you don't have anybody who's the top don who is actually controlling things, and also works within a system, which says that if the system says that we're going to have a person who coaches the players, that he does, and then we've got somebody else who buys, who scouts the players, they do that, and the system kind of works. And he basically changed the system to ensure that was going to happen, because at that time we didn't have that system in place, and it was causing us a few problems where we had a few loggerheads in players that we wanted to sign and they couldn't sign, and and all this kind of stuff. It just wasn't right. So that system had come in, but people then laughed at Brentford. They said, look at them, what have they done? They're just brilliant. Everything was going fine for them, and they don't know what they're doing. They buy players by computer. And we're thinking, no, you've got it all wrong. That's not how we work. We actually do scout players, but we've just used this system to find players, and it's taken us 3 or 4 years for people to turn around and actually go, actually, they do look like they know what they're doing. So for him to say something like that, because he's part of the old school network of the managers who are on the conveyor belt, he'll get another job somewhere else and do the same thing, and we're not do that conveyor belt thing. He's not really on our radar. We don't get managers like him, and it's not a disrespect. It's just that's not what we do. We'd rather get a non-brand name manager who will play football in the style of football that we want to. And
this is why the Harry Redknapp thing was, it fueled the kind of derision that the Brentford fans felt towards Birmingham, was because is another sort of experience, manager that wants to just come along, flash his checkbook and expect him just to replicate what we've achieved. You can't. It's more to buying our players than achieving what we're achieving. The players are just one part of a very much bigger picture.
But Tuesday we've got a big game. We've got the Birmingham City coming down. They need a result. Like I said, you had a little blip. You had a few decent games, and then you had the cup draw against Huddersfield. Then you had a couple of games where you won, and then you had that loss against Huddersfield, a big loss. And you seem to have gone backwards since then. And like I said to you, seeing the reports, Saturday's game against Millwall in particular, because the Villa's always going to be tough, but the Millwall game, the fans weren't happy at all with what was going on in that Millwall game.
It was honestly one of the worst games of football I've seen in my life. The first half especially, the whole place was silent, nothing was happening, not a shot on goal. Millwall achieved exactly what they wanted to do, which was to just come, be robust, hard to break down, turn the game into a very ugly affair, and then with 20 minutes to go, bring on an attacking substitution and go for it. And that's what they did, and it worked a treat. Going back to the Villa game, the issue we have with that as fans is, to be honest, we can accept losing to them. We can accept the fact that it's happened time and again. But what we can't accept is feeling like the players didn't put in the effort, that the passion wasn't there. So to follow that up with just a lifeless performance against Millwall, that's what's got us all down. And I don't think any of us in our right minds can predict that we'll get a win tomorrow.
So coming on to tomorrow, I mean, how do you think you're going to shape up? What team, you're going to put out? How are you going to hit us? Because obviously everyone knows it's not rocket science. We play the passing game, we play the possession game. When Derby came down, I think at one point of the game we had about 85% possession. I know possession means nothing, but that's what we do. We keep the ball, we pass the ball around, we try and move it around fast. What's your game going to be?
Our game's probably going to be attempt to pass it around in non-threatening areas at the back, and then just launch it forward to Gallagher, hope he wins something in the air. And unless the lineup's different, he's probably not going to have any teammates within 20 feet of him, and he'll knock the ball down and it'll be straight back to you, and we start the process again. Unless we can get a little bit of magic from someone like Boga, who's on loan from Chelsea, and he's done a few things, but to be honest, he's more likely to try and take on three men and lose the ball. Unless we can get something out of him, or maybe Magoma, I'm very pessimistic.
Laney, I'm just wondering, Birmingham are coming down. We have a tendency to sometimes kickstart people's seasons, and we do find it hard against sometimes teams who are in effect not doing very well, because they come in, they batten down the hatches. Sometimes they put sort of 35 men behind the ball. What do you reckon?
Yeah, we're coming up. There's a lot of different factors in this tomorrow that could play a part. Obviously, clearly, we talked about the returning players and the effect that that they'll want to come back and make an impact or prove a point. You've obviously got their ex-teammates that will remember what's said, and I think you could see that the game at St Andrews meant a lot to them to go out there and to have won that game. So I think we're in for a really open game, if I'm honest with you. I think Birmingham are going to find it a little bit difficult to kind of snuff us out. I think we're going to be swarming all over you from the off. I think we're going to really go for it tomorrow night. I do think that being under the floodlights, it raises it a little bit more. The atmospheres under the floodlights are great, and obviously I think the Birmingham fans and the Brentford fans should make it a real kind of raucous atmosphere. I'm looking forward to that. But I think it depends who scores first. These are cliches. if Birmingham score first, I'm sure you become a little bit more negative, and you try and protect it. But I think if we score, you're gonna have to open it up a little bit. I don't think I don't think going a goal down and not trying to get something out of the game is gonna be on your mind. So yeah, I think if Birmingham score first, then it could be a draw. Then or worst for us. But if we score and you try and come at us, I think we're just going to pick you off. So it's not going to be easy, and I can see it. I can see it being a draw, but I think we should win tomorrow.
Don't forget, Dean Smith is also an Aston Villa fan.
Yeah, well, thanks for that. It's definitely going to be a spicy affair.
Yeah, I mean, these are the kind of games. As fans, these are the games you want. I know as Birmingham City fans, you don't want to be, entrenched in the same position you're at the moment. The chances are you are going to escape still. There's a lot of fodder in this division still.
You played Sunderland on Saturday. What did you think of them?
Oh, they're down. They're down, mate. They were awful.
They were really, really bad. And the thing is that we try and be diplomatic. You'll see in our post-match podcast, which you've listened to, and we listen to fans, and fans, they don't just slate off. They actually very, very balanced in their point of view. And we did a post-match podcast after the game, and everyone was trying to say something positive about Sunderland, and they couldn't. I mean, the Sunderland fans, it was all like, they couldn't say anything. They just said, listen, we're just terrible, and we're down, and it's all over. But we were trying to say, yeah, or maybe it's all the manager, and your heads are down, but they were so bad. It was just unbelievable. And to be quite honest with you, we should have been out of sight by the end of the first half. We should have probably had about 4 goals at the end of the first half. Their goalkeeper pulled off a couple of decent saves. We went 2-0, bang, bang, bang. We passed the ball around them. They were literally running around in circles. They couldn't even get near the ball. At times it was quite bad. In the second half,
it was the same, believe it or not, when we played them at home a month ago, and that's how bad they are. They made us look like Brazil. To kind of calm your nerves, you know this anyway. I'd say Sunderland and Burton are almost certainly going to go, and it's one between. Yeah.
And if you can get, you've proved the last few weeks you can get a couple of wins. You just need to get that, need to get back on that winning streak again. But obviously, as Brentford fans, we do hope you go down.
So listen, Davo, it's been wicked chatting to you. The last thing I want to just go around the table here and to ask everyone their thoughts on what the score prediction is going to be. Let's start off in the Dave Lane corner.
Okay, I'm going to go ding dong 2-1 Bees win. Very, very, very edgy. Both teams having quite a lot of chances. It's going to be quite an open game, I think.
Oh, Davo.
I'm going to go 2-0 Brentford, I'm afraid. I think you're right about the first goal being pivotal. However, if you score it, I can't see us coming back. We don't come back from behind. We don't have enough goals in us. We don't have any creativity. I can only hope that we go out there and the occasion brings the best out of us, and maybe we get something special from Jota on his return, if he plays. But I'm not counting on it.
I have to say that Birmingham, we haven't got a great record against Birmingham, but I try not to go for these historic things. Every time you come down to our ground, you seem to get a win somehow. There was that season where I think you won 2-1, where Donaldson went over for a penalty in like the 9th minute, which is, I think he was winking at the referee then, sort of just laughing away, and it was the Alamo in the second half, and I've got no idea how you won that match, so it's not great. However, I think that this is the year where Dean Smith has sat down to them and he sort of said, listen, this ain't the year for you to be losing to these guys, you know what I'm saying? This time, we need to put this to bed. So I believe it's going to be 2-0 to the mighty Bees. So, but anyway, listen, great chatting, great having the little Beesotted Pride of West London mini-pod. You can check out, there's going to be a podcast again this week. Laney will tell you more about it because I'm flying off to Hot Climbs because I've decided I am not paying £39 for a ticket at Leeds. So I decided to get myself out of the country to ensure that at the last minute I wouldn't change my mind. So I'm not going to
Leeds. Where are you going?
I'm going to Mallorca for a few days.
Oh,
as you do.
It's all right for some.
Yeah, I'm just going out there for a few days, just hanging out and just going to be checking out what the Bees are doing on a long distance thing. 20s plenty, 30s dirty, and 40s very naughty. So we're not going for that one at all. So, but which is all good. But Laney, we're doing the podcast this week. You'll be letting everyone know where and when and why and all that kind of stuff. But which is all good. But Davo, it's been wicked chatting with you. And tomorrow we'll be catching up for a few beers before the game, and you'll be able to you'd be able to sample a bit of Brentford hospitality, because we need to think that we need to give you something back before we take something from you, which is 3 points.
Yeah, cheers, Dave. Cheers, Dave. I'll see you tomorrow. Good top man.
Laney, appreciate it, Billy. Nice one, mate. See you later.